If you're hearing voices, that is good. The vision may be blurry, but you have vision, and that is good. Welcome once again to Carltim Pal-lisades of ZX Media Group. And once again, we are on our Curious and Interesting People segment. We hope to entertain and hopefully inform you of some things just outside your periphery. Once again at Carltim Pal-lisades with Jasmine, myself, and our guest today is Lorraine.
You are the host of the Peace Talk Radio on KRFF 95.9 radio. What led you to this expressive outlet?
Well, I started doing Peace Talk Radio with my father. It's his show. He developed it. He started doing it in about 2005. And he had different co-hosts at the time. I lived down in Lisbon at the time, so I wasn't able to start right with him. But I always listened and enjoyed, his program. And then he's had some turnover. He had, people that would help him. And then, so the last gal that was helping him, my dad was such a mentor. She was a younger gal in school studying to be a lawyer. And she finished her program and went on to study international human rights law. And I mean, he was her proponent, her sponsor. He helped her spread her wings.
Mentor.
Yes, Lily Shonak, who now is I believe, the DA in Jamestown. I think she works in Jamestown. Anyway, so I mean, he helped so many young people sort of spread their wings, and he was all about not an ageist at all. I mean, I hear stories still. My father's been passed away for many years, but I have, hear stories from young people coming back to me about how motivational he was to them, how he really, helped push them in the right direction, and they loved him and appreciated him. Anyway, that was his last co-host. When she left, he asked, "Hey, can you fill in for me, or for her, run the board," because he was a little too old for the techno stuff. Didn't care for that part of it. So I basically just started with him, just supporting him by running the board, meaning, making sure the mics are up correctly, playing songs on the breaks, taking calls, all those things, looking stuff up. He'd be like, "Gee, I wonder, what is the population of blah, blah, blah?" And I would be, I can tell you, just give me 1 sec. Click, click, click. Yeah, it's, whatever, 579,000. There you go. And so anyway, I was the right-hand man, and that's how I started. And I did that with him. I had the great joy to be able to do that with him for approximately 5 years before he started to get, sadly, a man of his brilliance, got Alzheimer's and passed away in 2017. But anyway, yes, I had the and he kind of pushed me on my way in that direction.
And then that's when you took over?
I took over when he passed. I had to kind of scramble to find other co-hosts. It's really hard to do a talk show by yourself. I mean, I know lots of people do it, and I've done it, quite a few times when my co-host doesn't show up, or, I just don't have anybody, and so, I still show up and I try and do it, but I feel like it's so weird. You're talking to the ether, especially if nobody calls in, nobody's texting you, and you're just like, okay. And later on you hear, "Oh yeah, you sounded great, it was fine," or, whatever. It's better when you have somebody with you. To me, you're not just talking into the ether. You have somebody you're looking at and you're speaking to, and it just...
Prince Albert in a can.
Is your fridge running? Yeah. So yes, I've been doing it on mostly on my own. I've had, I think, 3 different co-hosts. And the guy I have now, I love dearly. I try not to use his name. We try not to use our names that much, and I know that leads into another question later on. But we are kind of targets sometimes because of our liberal views. So I just go by on the air, Pablo Lorraine. That's my radio name, Pablo Lorraine, and my show is Peace Talk Radio on KRFF, as you mentioned, 95.9, and we've changed the time a number of times. We're always on Saturdays, and we used to be just in the morning, but I prefer, a little early afternoon.
Yeah.
Like, give me a little bit more time to sleep. During COVID, why do we gotta get up so dang early?
Right.
No reason. So the show is now from 1 to 3 on Saturday afternoons on KRFF 95.9. Okay.
So, coming from a very cerebral and somewhat opinionated family, how has that translated to a strength or a weakness in doing what you're doing and talking and interacting with those on air?
Very good question. A person has to really kind of sit back and think, because, on one hand, you love, your parents. My dad was very smart. He was my hero in lots of ways. We had definitely those moments, and if you don't have those with a parent, I don't think they're doing their job right, because you got to make your kid mad sometimes, right? Yes. So yes, we had our moments, but it usually wasn't around politics. I sort of I'm not going to say I swallowed everything that he put my way, but I certainly absorbed it. And man, what we would do sometimes for fun, like in the summer, he'd say, "Hey, read this book, and I'll give you $20 if you read this book and tell me what it meant."
Oh,
What a great, $20 you're back in the day when I was, 14, 15,
20
16.
bucks was a lot then.
Yeah, absolutely. So I read it. I read Notes from the Gallows. I read 1984. I don't know if that's one he made me read. I think I read that one in high school, but there were a couple other ones like Cell Block.
Gulag.
I can't even think of them now. I know Notes from the Gallows was one.
Notes from the Underground or anything like that?
A lot of stuff, like Notes from the Memphis jail was the one I was thinking of with Martin Luther King.
Yeah,
So my father actually, he had been everywhere. He met everybody. I'm not going to say personally knew, but he met Martin Luther King. He met Muhammad Ali. He met the Rolling Stones. He met just everybody you can possibly think of.
Yeah.
He was one of a kind.
Mm-hmm.
They don't make them like that. He was one of a kind even back in his day, but now that's even more rare. Like, he went to jail for union organizing, for, civil rights. He protected a family. That was one of his biggest legacies. Was in the late 50s, I believe. You have to look it up. It was called the Wade family.
Okay.
And it was in Kentucky when and all those Jim Crow laws prohibited a black family from buying a home. And he and his friends, who were also extremely left-wing, politically active folks, said, no, that's not right. And they helped this family buy a home. I don't know if they used their own names or how they did it, but they got this beautiful Wade family, hard-working man and his wife and their kids, their beautiful little kids, have a home. And they sat there and protected that home. Like, they had to take shifts, and they sat there with guns because people were so angry, these Klansmen, these racists that we still have today. I don't understand how 70 years later, it just never ends. It never ends. But they sat there with their guns, and guess what happened? The Klansmen were burning crosses, they were doing this and that, and at one point they actually threw a bomb in the window and bombed the house. My dad was on guard, and they were able to get the family out, so no one was hurt. But guess what? My dad went to jail for that. He went to jail.
Protecting somebody.
Yeah, and that's how the laws were, and my God, he went to jail for union organizing. He went to jail for sticking up for people, more than once. In that particular instance, I know this is one of the later questions, and I don't know how you want to edit this, but endearing stories about him. This is one of my favorite. So after the aftermath of the Wade family bombing, he had to stand up in front of the court in Kentucky. They had a organization called HUAC. If you remember in the day, it was HUAC. HUAC, the House Un-American Activities Committee, was led by Joe McCarthy, right?
Yeah.
That whole anti-communist, scary stuff.
So he was on the list.
Yes, he was on the list, and it was the Kentucky version. It was called HUAC, the Kentucky un-American house activity, whatever. And so the attorney for the state were in my dad's face, right? Are you a communist? Have you ever been? Are you now? Have you ever been a member of the Communist Party? And my dad just said, do you know what? That is none of your business. My personal political views are absolutely none of your business. It'd be like if I asked you, are you a homosexual? Have you ever been? Are you now? Are you a homosexual? And I mean, this guy it shut him down. Turns out later, here's the rest of the story. About 6 months later, that prosecutor, he killed himself. Turned out he was homosexual.
Oh my.
My dad just nailed it.
Wow.
God.
That happened.
Oh,
Yes.
well, that's too bad that the guy had to kill
I know,
himself
I know.
over that. But I mean, that's.
But my dad stood up for himself and
Exactly,
others. He
yeah.
never backed down.
Yeah,
Never.
no.
Never. It was like, I don't have to. He would have been a guy that, back in the day, he wasn't religious, but I mean, he would have died for his beliefs,
yeah,
just like
yeah,
Christ.
Yeah.
Everybody says, do you have to be religious to be Christ-like?
No.
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 He was a devout atheist, in fact.
You have to have a heart for your fellow human being.
Exactly.
That's all that matters.
That's right.
So, yeah. Life, when the intensity of life gets a bit too much, you have to kind of back off on what is happening in the outer part and kind of revert back into what makes you feel good. And for you, Lorraine, I believe that's pets and even horse ownership. Can you tell us a little bit about your experience in that?
So my love of horses goes back to when I was very little. My earliest stories, I think I was like 3 or 4. My dad, we went to these camps, like World Fellowship. It was in New Hampshire. So all of us kids were named after, political activists, and my oldest brother's named after Willard Uphouse, who ran these beautiful camps called World Fellowship. It was in New York, upstate New York for a while, and then it went to New Hampshire. There were mountains, there were lakes. It was beautiful, and I remember there was a pony at one of them, a pony. I do not remember the pony's name, but I remember I grabbed that lead rope and I did not let go of it. The entire time we were there, it was like 2 weeks or whatever, it was like, that was my pony. I lived with it, I slept with it, I was like, that was my buddy. And my dad realized, you know what, this isn't going away, it's not a passing fancy. My girl, loves horses, and so he got me. We lived in the city. We didn't have, obviously didn't have room when we lived outside of New York. My dad worked for the city of New York for a while. But he managed, lessons for me and horse camps and friends that had horses, and I mean, just any way that he could get me to a horse. Like he realized the importance of it. And when we moved out to North Dakota, lots of opportunities out here, lots and lots and lots.
So there are a lot of
vendors
and
back in the day there was Ponyland. Dolores Kerber, she ran it, and all her kids I knew. And in fact, it's a long story. It kind of goes around and around. But Ponyland was up in North Fargo. It's now apartments.
Yeah.
She finally passed away, and I guess the kids sold the land because they've all spread out. And now there's apartments up there. But we would go up there and rent these horses, great horses, and we could go where we wanted with them. She had pasture rides, she had trail rides, but we'd just take them and we'd go wherever. And we went across the golf course, which didn't go over real well. Our horse, but he called it Lubka's Rough Riders, Lou's Rough Riders, and man, we had fun. It was like almost every weekend, or I don't even remember how often, but we did that for a while. Plus, we had lessons down at, it was called Winfield Manor, which has been closed many, many years. If anybody remembers the doctor that ran it, it was his wife, Chris Everett. His name was Fred Everett. Lots of malpractice against him. Anyway, that's another story. I've been in Fargo too long. There's too many stories, too many backstories. But he eventually helped me be able to buy my very first horse, which was this really cute little Arabian named Breezy. And where I was keeping him at the time, oh my God, it's all built up now, but it was southwest of town. And there were other horses to ride, so I could always bring friends out, or Lou, or whoever. And we'd just find places to ride, and we'd ride. And then I sold him after not that long. That was my first horse. He was a fat little spoiled brat when I got him. I kind of worked the fat off him, so he was in better shape. When I turned around and sold him, I made a few dollars, but I didn't. that wasn't the deal. But then my second horse I got, this is still the only second horse I've ever owned. His name is Sputnik Jet. And the reason why I got him is because to make the circle go around, he was bred by Dolores Kerber's son, Roger, who owns this giant, beautiful ranch out in Hanford, North Dakota. That's where Sputnik was born. I didn't know it. I went to look at my horse, and I looked at the papers, and I'm like, oh my God, he was bred by Roger Kerber. And it's like, oh, it's meant to be, and I bought him, and I've had him for almost 20 years.
Wow.
He's 20 years old, he's 20. And I've had him since he was 2, so I've had him 18 years.
So,
he was like basically a year and a half, not even quite 2.
So I know nothing about the personality of horse. Does when he sees you come, he's like reacts?
Sometimes.
Sometimes.
He's kind of like, so he's kind of like me. He's not, you can't really predict him.
Yeah.
He's a very smart horse. He's very smart. He's got a lot of heart. He loves me. Yes, he does. But he also kind of has a lazy streak, as all horses do. He's like, really? Really? You know, when I was, so we had to live in, wow, that sounds terrible. I lived in Lisbon, North Dakota for a while, and the only good thing down there was that everybody rode. There was horses everywhere. We could ride him through town, and I rode that horse almost every day. I loved him. He saved me. That town sucked, and the horses were the best part of that, by far. We lived down there 5 or 6 years. He stayed at this beautiful place, and the owner there was great. I loved it. So Sputnik Jet, he's gray, and he's just a very smart, willing horse, but he's not everybody's horse. Like, my brother would try and get on him, and he'd be like, come on, do what you want me to, do what I want you to do. Yeah. And Sputnik would be like, I'm not sure, and I'm not sure that he even didn't toss him. He tossed me a few times. Like, I got broke up a bit working with him, so he's right at that level where, you gotta find the animal that's just the right amount of challenge for you. If you get a big old plotter and you're like, come on, let's go, and it's like, you're gonna get bored. You're not gonna be that interested. But if you get one that's, holy crap, I've got this thing under me. It's a rocket. What am I gonna do? And he has knocked me off many times. But I sort of feel like now we're at the point where we're both older. Yeah, he's 20, and he's back out at Roger's place. I haven't got to ride him much. I had an accident. I don't know if anybody can see this hideous neck scar I got on Frankenstein. But I was driving too fast. At my last job, I was a dog groomer. Because that's my other passion. Horses and dogs. I love dogs. Big dogs. We had St. Bernards forever. 3 of them. Did you ever meet any of them or see them?
Nope, I did not.
We had Murray. Then we had
I remember
Hugo.
stories of Murray.
Murray, Hugo, and then Frosty was our last one. And they're such great dogs, but they don't live very long. Anyway, I was driving to work, and it was almost all dirt roads, and I was going fast because I was pissed. It was late, and I'm like trying to get home, and I didn't hit my brake soon enough or whatever, and flipped over in the ditch and got this. So at the time, I was in school for equine science. Well, I don't know how that's going to work now when I have lost a lot of strength and dexterity in my arm, my left arm and my hand. My right hand isn't as good. And then with the COVID, my dream was to have a ranch. I wanted to have a ranch. Be it therapeutic or be it just, like vacation spot or even just a family thing. Like just have some horses and have a beautiful ranch. In Colorado or somewhere, not mosquito-ridden lowlands, right? It is not a fun place to ride around here. The short summers coupled with hideous amounts of mosquitoes do not make it fun. So anyway, I love the big dogs, love the horses, and it's a great. I mean, even though you get banged up, people that love, say, mountain biking or karate or whatever it might be, you're gonna put yourself at risk to get some injury if you're doing something that you're all physically.
You get that adrenaline.
Yes.
Put some skin in the game.
Yeah. So anyway, he busted my wrist. I got concussions. I had a bruise on my leg one time that lasted for a year.
Wow.
Things like that, and So I haven't seen him for a while since this accident. I haven't really been able to ride. Desperately hoping to, turn that around, and I just don't know where to go from here. I finished my degree, in equine science. So if anybody out there wants to hire me for horse related, dog related, radio related, I don't know, I'm a little lost right now.
Yeah.
So did your dogs have a relationship with your horse?
That's a great question. The big dogs, like the Saint Bernards, they'd go out there and the horses were just like, what is that? Is that a cow? Is that a...
Yeah, no.
You know, and so there was no like animosity or
Right.
issues. But my little dog, he couldn't be scared, right? And so I had this little mutt that I adopted. I had him until he was almost 16. His name was Peaches. He'd sort of hide and he'd be kind of scared. And then they'd be like, what is that? Is that a fox? Is that a wolf? And they'd start chasing him, right? And then he got terrified.
Oh man.
And his eyes got like this big and he ran as fast as he could. And he got to me and then he never wanted to go out there again. So, I mean, the dogs, it's really kind of hit or miss. My current dog, she's this huge black lab. She's black lab slash mastiff, so
Oh, wow,
she's called
she's
a
huge,
mastodon.
yeah.
Yeah, she's like
Yeah.
a 120-pound black lab, but she's
Mhm.
huge. But you guys would love her. She's a good fetch dog.
Oh, yeah.
She's so sweet.
You were gonna bring her over.
Yeah,
You should have brought her over now.
I could have.
Well, you can still go get her.
Maybe.
Leave her in the backyard.
Millie, her name's Millie. Anyway, I adopted her. She's had a rough beginning, and she's an older dog now, but I'm doing the best by her, and we love each other, and she will never ever hurt a kid. Never. She might bite another dog. Like, I've seen her do that.
No.
But, okay, so, what's there?
I think we're about, we could have you on another time. I mean,
For sure.
You
Oh.
are well filled with stories.
I do want to just
Okay.
quickly mention our sponsors
Okay.
because sponsorship is a great thing. If there's anybody listening, a small business, you know, anybody that wants us to plug your name, we will. Oh my God, we'll say it in whatever voice you want. You want me to do my co-host is great at doing Bernie. He can do a great Bernie, and so he used to always read the Flatland Guitar, which is one of our sponsors, Flatland Guitar and Lutherie. He'd do it in a Bernie voice. We also have Drum Conrath, which is a brewing company, Northland Vapor, Terra Wild Cider. These are some of our devoted sponsors and underwriters.
And you can see them if you go to the
webpage.
webpage of the Radio Free Fargo .org, and you go to the webpage and all that information will be there. I've had fun. It's been a good conversation. Thank you.
Thank
Yeah,
you.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Lorraine.
Yes, and this guy's gonna have to be on my show now, so please tune in.
That'll be fun.
1 to 3s on Saturdays.
Yeah,
Radio
yeah.
Free Fargo, 95.9.
And I think this concludes our session today, and we would like to thank Lorraine once again for her time and the viewers for stopping by. Please comment and like. Check us out both on our YouTube link as well,
That's cool.
and as said above, we also have previous episodes of other curious and interesting people we've encountered. So feel free to check out our content and tell us what you think. Like us, and have a great
I
day.
hope to sing all over the earth, share the songs that make me whole. When I'm free, I wait to gather my pieces till I'm free, and I hope that I'll discover the real me. Yes, I hope that I'll discover the real me. That I'll discover that when I'm free.